Okay, welcome to part 9 of my Halo Custom Edition level design tutorial. Before we start, let me just save this as stage 9 so we know where we're at. Okay, so I've come to the decision that there really is no point adding any more than what we've already got, because I'm already at 17,600 polygons, and I don't really want to go to any higher than that. What I am going to do though is just concentrate on what I've already got and optimize certain areas so that I have some clean topology to work with if I need to work with anything else, but I don't think I really do, so I'm just going to be doing some cleaning up. In case I have one or two things which I need to add, then I'll go with that, but more than likely we'll just be cleaning up what we already have. So I'm going to start with this area here. I just noticed that there's a lot of detail which isn't really being used, namely on this middle portion, so I'm just going to control backspace that. Oops. Let's just zoom in on that vertex. Oh, that's not the one. Neither is that. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this. Cut that in, target weld that vertex down. I've just double clicked the edge loop there to select that whole loop, and I'm going to bring that up slightly, and then I'm going to hit R and scale it in. I'm going to go ahead and actually remove part of that portion, since there is no real point in keeping it. And I was thinking that I could expand this part outwards slightly, just a tiny bit will keep it in. No, I kind of like the roundish feel. So continue down here. That. There we go. Okay. Kind of get rid of this. And that. At the moment, I'm just selecting edges and control backspacing them. So nothing incredibly complex about that. So I'll connect that. Connect that. And I'm also going to get rid of this portion here. It looks like we forgot to do a lot of cleaning up on the floor when we created this piece, but that's okay. We can do this now. All right. Talking about that there, that to there. I'm going to keep. What shall I keep? I'll keep this rounded portion here. That row of edges, I'll maintain that, but I'm not sure if I should keep that dip or not. Perhaps I'll sacrifice that for that. Moving around to the back here. No, I think that stands out pretty nicely on its own. I'm just going to push it. Target all of that there. I'm really just looking for any edges or verts which are far too close to each other, far too close to one another, or just random edges or vertices which are really just there for the sake of being there. They're not holding up the smoothing in any way or holding up the shape. but we're okay. So let's continue on the floor. Control backspace that. Select that loop. Control backspace that. Control backspace that. And that. And that. And those two. I'm going to have to get them to an angle here. Control backspace that out. And get rid of you. And you. There's three. Yeah, okay. So just notice this really sharp edge, which I'm going to round out. It's a little better. Go ahead and target all that down to there. So now I'm keeping that. And then what I can do is lift that up to exaggerate it a little bit more. Push that in. Okay, if you feel that that you could get a little bit less out of what you already have, then if, for example, looking at this cliff face, I've just noticed this area here, this particular vertex, which doesn't seem to be doing anything, you can either target weld it to a neighboring vertex, or you can actually select it and a neighboring vertex and simply collapse it. And then what the collapse tool will do is it will average the distance between both 2 points and merge them together at that center point, like so. For areas like this, I'll just usually target weld. But if I have something that looks like that, I'll collapse it. It's a little difficult when you're a beginner at this, because you're not really sure what you're looking for. But as you come to understand your particular game engine and the needs and the demands for it, you tend to understand when you're designing a certain structure or designing something for the game engine, you tend to know what would be perfectly fine and what would just be wastage and trash and potentially would harm the game engine, in the sense of the game engine not being able to cope with what you've put into action or into a design or whatever. I've just noticed that I didn't even bother optimizing the floor piece here, so we'll do that. What we've got down here, this looks pretty ugly. And that looks much better. Control backspace. Not exactly sure what's going on down there. Can't really get rid of that. Okay. Now is a good opportunity to take a look at what we've created here and think, does it need changing, and if it does, how would we go about changing it? For example, this whole strip here isn't really doing anything at all. It's holding up the shape a little bit, and it's adding a little bit of curvature, but we could get a lot out of what we already have. And that's what I'm going to do. It's namely this back portion which is really the problem. So I'm just going to push that out a bit more, get a little bit more curvature. This doesn't seem to be doing much either. There we go. Oh, and I've just realized that we have some junk to deal with here. And I'm going to try and soften that up. Lovely. Oops. In case you're wondering what I have planned next, for the next parts, whilst I'm doing this sort of laborious stuff, I'm going to go ahead and just do one final once over the map. Take a look at a few things, namely, can I reduce the triangle count any further? And if not, then I'll just go ahead and reattach all of my structures. Then I'm going to edit the smoothing, how the smoothing is interpolated across many of these structures that we've created, because at the moment it's not 100% how I'd like it to be. So I'm going to edit that. After that, then I'll go ahead and plug this into Halo, and then once we've sort of got confirmation that our design is indeed compilable, then we can go ahead and go back into 3ds Max and start UVing and texturing what we have, and then we'll get back in game and do the final cleanup on what kind of content that we're going to have in this map, and that sort of thing. Okay. Just looking for any of the areas that I might have skipped clean, but everything looks fine to me. I'm still worried about this portion here. Okay, I've made the decision to add a little feature across here. Alright, something like that. So we'll extrude that up. And taper it in. And I'm actually going to go ahead and target weld some of these bits downwards. Backspace a few edges out. Okay, and I'll extrude sort of what we have here. Actually, I can't really do that. I want to keep this path clear, like I have over here. So I'm just going to cut in a portion there and set some edge constraints on so I can edit my edges. And turn that off, pull that out a little bit more further in. this down slightly and pull that out and up. And get rid of this edge here and connect that way. So that helps us. Okay, and oops. I'm just trying to create a little middle portion here which I can extrude up. I think that would be kind of interesting. And if we don't like it, then I guess we'll just have to swallow our pride and delete it. Okay, that's enough fiddling around. Extrude that up. Flare it in. And I'm actually going to pull this lower portion up slowly. I'll pull the rim of this down. And I'll pull this down a little bit. Nah, that looks okay on that other side. Okay, and I think what I'll do now is cut in some sort of break into here. So I'm just going to connect, that once, and I'm just going to push it in, and then target weld that to there, and connect those two from there, like so. Oops. I'm going to have to bring that forward, in a little bit, forward and in, and then push that a little bit forwards as well. And I'm not going to do any target connecting, or target welding, sorry, I'll just connect that out. Then I'll grab these 3 vertices, push them in, finally scale them in slightly, and that doesn't look so bad. I might even push them down to match the slope which we have down there. Alright, mesh smooth, and I think we'll be done. I'm not really liking how that kind of falls out. Would that look a little bit better? That doesn't look so bad, but kind of looks a little bit too similar to what's going on there. I pull that out like so, and push that out. I wonder if that makes any difference. No, not really. So I'm just going to leave it like that. That doesn't look that bad. That's okay. Pull that over there. Push the center out here. Okay. Alright, and I'm going to select a couple of polygons which I will want smoothed, and then the mesh smooth modifier will inherently affect anything close to this, close to what we have selected, I mean. and that's okay, but it's a bit too much, so select that, mesh smooth that. Okay, that gives us a problem there. I wonder if we just mesh smooth those pieces. Would that look any good? No. Yeah, that's slightly better, but it's way too much over here. Okay, slightly better. I may even go ahead and go into properties of the mesh smooth and lower the iterations. So I'll set something 0.7, and that seems okay. So finally, I'll finish off with a little bit of cleanup. What can I clean up? Okay, this bit we don't need. That bit we don't need either. This isn't particularly useful to us. Neither is that. This rounded section I'd like to meet into there. Then I'll collapse those two. And then target weld that down. And we have far too many edges and verts here. Oops. And a little bit of a mess down here. And get rid of you. Don't think there was much else to get rid of apart from perhaps. Oh, whoops. Just hit Q a couple of times to get the right selection up. There we go. Collapse those two. And I would say that we do have a little bit too much going on here. And too much here as well. Much too much. Okay, and I'm just going to stick with that. That looks awesome. Do a little bit of cleanup down here, and then I think we'll be done. Yeah, that doesn't look so bad, even without the proper smoothing groups. Okay, lovely. So that's going to do it for, I guess, the modeling portion of our map. After we're done here, after this tutorial, I think I'll do a little bit of revision of what we've already done, and I'll come back with fixing the smoothing, attaching the structures, and adding a skybox. Almost forgot about that. And getting this in game and looking for any specific errors that the game engine gives us. So don't forget to save, and I will see you in the next part.